The new Nigerian People's Party is suspended its presidential candidate in the last general election, Rabiu Kwankwaso, for 6 months. A suspension of the former governor of Kano, although contested, has led to a difficult situation and points to feisty relationships within the party. NNPP currently holds the Kano State governorship position and some seats at the National Assembly, with the new National Working Committee elected and sworn in, and arguably the most powerful man in the party suspended. There's a lot to unpack tonight at Politics HQ. I have with me Rabiu Johnson, spokesperson, NNPP Presidential Campaign Council, who joins us live from the nation's capital, Abuja. Mr. Johnson, a pleasure to have you join us in Politics HQ.
Good evening. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Now, Mr. Johnson, could you provide a comprehensive overview of the recent decisions made by the Board of Trustees of the new Nigerian People's Party, NNPP, including the suspension of your principal, Senator Rabiu Kwankwaso, and the National Working Committee? What factors led to these decisions?
Thank you. Firstly, I'd like to make some points known. I'm also the national auditor of the party. That makes me a member of the National Working Committee and the National Executive Committee of the party. Also, the Board of Trustees never suspended Dr. Senator Rabiu Kwankwaso. What you have is a group of people who have been expelled and suspended from the party, bringing themselves together in Apapa in Lagos sometime this morning and saying that they've suspended Senator Kwankwaso and many others, I'm sure, maybe myself inclusive. These are people who were suspended and expelled from the party, and instead of going through the process, the appeal process in the party's constitution, decided that they would put themselves together and just cause some confusion and what have you. We have it on good authority anyway, that they're working with people from outside the party. We had the National Executive Committee meeting in Abuja today. The NEC was duly constituted in Abuja. The acting national chairman was there. The governor of Kano was there. The speaker was there. The Senator Kawu Ismaila was there. The House of Representatives was represented, and the 36 state chairman plus Abuja were there. So the party is well constituted, and I must tell you, INEC were there as well. What we have is that after the elections, we decided to revamp the party, look at what had happened. And when we started that, some of those who had their chapters dissolved and then later on got suspended for anti-party activities and for all sorts of things, now put themselves together and just said, and as you see, the news is that the NNPP BOT, none of them are members of the BOT. None of them are members of the BOT. So that is the problem we have in the age of social media. I've seen it. People have been calling me. I've told people that, look, there's nothing going on except for the fact that these people who took these actions were expelled this afternoon. The actions took place earlier this morning in Lagos, Apapa. Who has the BOT meeting in some corner of a state? It's usually here in Abuja, and that is it.
Okay.
We're there. We occupy the national headquarters.
Thank you very much, Mr. Johnson, for clarifying the air on that. But let's listen to some of the things that were said in this meeting in Apapa in Lagos today, where the decision was taken by members of the BLT, where you said they're not
Sorry, they're not
legitimate members
Please,
of the BLT.
members of whatever they call themselves,
Let's listen to what this faction of the NNPP had to say, and then we'll get back. I'll get back to you shortly, but let's take a listen, and I'd like to know your share. I want you to share your thoughts on this.
So the board moved that no more Engineer Rabiu Kwankwaso referred as national leader, ditto state leader. 10, the purported suspension of the founder was a flagrant gross violation of the NNPP constitution, such that is tantamount to recklessness and irresponsibility on the part of the incompetent National Working Committee involved in anti-party activities in various meetings, suggests political discussion with Mr. President Atiku Abubakar and Peter Obi without authorization from the board has earned him 6-month suspension pending the outcome of investigation by the disciplinary committee. 13, the BOT insisted that the avoidable violation of MOU between NNPP on the one part and Concoursia, TNM, NAGAP on the other has no other choice than to withdraw from the partnership. It is therefore to state clearly that the MOU had been rendered invalid. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you. That is the stand of Board of Trustees. This motion has stand. That is the stand.
Now back to you, Ladipo Johnson in Abuja, Mr. Babaya Abdullahi, who says he is the secretary of the Board of Trustees of the NNPP, reeling out some of the reasons why they took the decisions they make. First and foremost, is he a bona fide member of the NNPP? And how do you react to the clip you just watched? What are your thoughts?
Firstly, that is no Board of Trustees. I've told you. You understand. If you want me to react, I'm telling you. It is not the Board of Trustees, right? Those are people, as I said earlier, who have been expelled, who have been suspended, who came together just to try to embarrass Senator Kwankwaso.
But from that video, you can see that you have press from the press conference. You can see that some really legitimate media houses, household names were present at that event. So if it was a nobody, they wouldn't honor that invitation.
Anyone can gather the press, especially since the person who organized it was our former publicity secretary, national publicity secretary. So they can gather the press. Does that mean that they're legal?
But I'll let you share your thoughts. Go ahead.
I can gather anyone. Sorry. I'm just going to your argument. I can gather anyone and say that, oh, I'm News Central now. I'm somewhere in Abuja. Does that make me News Central? Or does that make me the board of the News Central? And you've asked me to come on board because, well, you didn't know I'm the serving national auditor of the party. I'm a member of NEC. I'm a member of the National Working Committee. And I've told you that these people were expelled. And that
what was the circumstances behind the expulsion?
I can treat what they said, but firstly, from me, they are not the board. I don't recognize them.
Okay.
I don't even recognize them as members of the party still. They've left.
Now, Mr. Johnson, what were the circumstances that led to the expulsion from the party, and what are their grievances?
That led to the expulsion were this. These people, I told you when we started to revamp the party, there's some chapters that were dissolved and caretaker committees put in place. Some of them gathered together, went to Dr. Ayebunam, one of the founders of the party, and they started. Dr. Ayebunam, on his part, put pen to paper, wrote to people outside the party, and single-handedly said he was reversing decisions of the NEC and of the National Working Committee. You can look at our constitution. He has no such powers. INEC will not register any party that has that sort of constitution. He had no such powers. And we had warned him severally, and so we suspended him. And so they decided, okay, if you've suspended me, let's spoil everything. And it will not, we won't have the problems. They've been able to feed the press with a false narrative, which after this program and by tomorrow morning will be cleared. Dr. Rabiu Kwankwaso is not under suspension. No board of trustees suspended him. Even in the constitution, the board of trustees has no power to suspend anyone. It is either the NEC or the National Working Committee. So, and we did it. Yes. And then what I have to tell you, there were news agencies, newspapers, and what have you there. And they recall part of their speech was that there was a suspension. Did they show you any court judgment saying that suspension was illegal? They didn't.
That brings me to my next question.
It is only in Nigeria that this is possible.
Mr. Ladipo Johnson.
Themselves, oh, I've been suspended, therefore I'm the board of trustees.
My next question is,
I'm declaring this.
My next question is based on the assertion you just made about a court order. I mean, there's arguments here and there. So when these things happen, there tends to be some level of litigation. So, yes, are you going to the courts?
News Central, hang on. If News Central terminates your appointment today, and you think it's a wrongful termination, I'm a legal practitioner. News Central won't go to court. You will go to court to say wrongfully terminated. They didn't. They haven't. In fact, Comrade Ogini, who I think they say is a purported secretary now, national secretary, went to court in Ogun State. He was removed as chairman of Ogun, and the courts threw him out. They threw him out.
Now,
so you see, as I said, it is only in a country like Nigeria that this is possible. You've been thrown out by the courts.
Do you plan to go to the courts to have a definite stay on this, so that the courts will decide what the situation is? Because you have a situation where some people feel, oh, they're right to do this, and
those people who feel, sir, those people who feel aggrieved by the suspension should have appealed to the National Executive Committee of the party. They didn't. Now, if you're not happy, go to court. If the court says reinstate them, fantastic. You do that. But they didn't. They just gathered in some corner in Akaka and they had a press conference, gathered people, some who were not, many of them were not even members. They have a group called Nagav. They had them there. They're not even members of the NNPP, a lot of them.
Now, Mr. Johnson, let's talk about, you said there are people, I mean, these guys that gathered, Mr. Johnson, you said these guys that gathered in Apapa are not legitimate members of the party. They've been suspended. It's a sham, it's a charade. But let's also talk about those who met earlier this month in August, the demand from the Forum of the State Chairman of NNPP for Senator Kwankwaso's resignation or potential suspension. It raises concerns about the party's internal dynamics. Could you elaborate on the alleged crisis and the power struggle within the party? And what about the issues of anti-party activities? You know, hobnobbing with the APC and all of that. How do you respond to these allegations?
What happened was this. Let me tell you. These people, those so-called 10 suspended, some of them are now expelled chairmen, when they were removed and the states chapters were dissolved, sat. Some of them were dissolved for anti-party activities, not all of them. Then they now said, oh, Senator Kwankwaso is the person that was guilty of anti-party because he had meetings with the president of the country, or because lately they said Atiku Abubakar visited him at home. I mean, that is a joke. And I said in a press conference that everything Senator Kwankwaso was doing, he informed us as a National Working Committee. So if you have a federal government that says, I am thinking of having a government of national unity, let me talk to your leadership. And the leadership is being carried along. Is that anti-party? Have you ever heard about people having a coalition, having a working relationship? If the party is carried along,
he did it without the board's authorization. They say he did it without the board's authorization.
Sorry?
They said yes.
Sir, sorry. Without the board, there is no board. They are not the board. They are not officials. They were state chairmen or whatever. We are in the National Working Committee. So it had nothing to do with them.
So they
cannot just stand up and tell you that, oh, it was without the board. Who are they? Are they the board?
Yeah,
Go to INEC and find out the members of the board.
So carry along the National Working Committee, which you are a member of.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did. Go to INEC and find out who the national chairman of the party is, who the national secretary is, and the board. And you see that these people are jokers. It is only possible in a country like Nigeria that people get away with all sorts. That is the bottom line. I don't mean to shout or scream, but the bottom line is that they are no longer members of the party, as at that stage, some of them were chapter chairmen, some of them were just members. One of them was the National Publicity Secretary. And that is gone now. So it is simple. If they want, they can remain outside and keep shouting. The people of Nigeria will know soon. They know the authentic executive committee and the National Executive Committee of the party.
Now, Mr. Johnson, yes,
these same people, yes. Agbo Major has been on TV all week saying that he was wrongly suspended. So does that mean, how do you go from being wrongly suspended and suddenly being the chairman of the party without going to court? Please, sir, take it from what they said. It makes no sense. And I said it is only in a country like Nigeria where we do not hold people to book that people get up and make such stupendous and stupid statements.
Now, Mr. Johnson, there's a saying that a house divided cannot stand on its own. And
the house is no longer divided.
Yes.
Those who wanted to divide the house are out.
Permit me to answer. Yes, they say a house divided cannot stand on its own. And opposition politics is very important in sustaining democracy and also putting the ruling party in check. As we speak, the Labour Party is going through its own internal crisis, and there's court cases and tussles, legal tussles here and there. Now, managing party unity during periods of suspensions and leadership changes is crucial, whether it's factional or not, whether you think they're authentic or not, but they're going about this with the banner of the NNPP. Could you delve into the strategies that the NNPP plan to implement to maintain internal harmony, foster collaboration, and ensure that the party's core objectives remain intact? Because either way you put it, this seems to be a crisis. Like you said, the other man has been on the news all week, you know, talking about his wrongful suspension. Yes, I'll let you react.
This is politics, and unfortunately, it's Nigerian politics, where anything goes, almost. Now, we looked at it and knew that these people would continue to cause problems. And instead of being sentimental, like Nigerians are, that, oh, he's one of the founders of the party, we decided that we have to ensure that there is discipline, no matter who you are. And we did it. So it is a good thing that this has started at this moment. And it is a blessing in disguise that they have successfully removed themselves from the party today by doing what they did. So whether you address them as a faction or what have you, we know that they are no longer within this NNPP family. This family remains as one now. Yes, we had those who have left now, who were causing problems, they've left. This family remains as one, and we will continue our rebuilding and repositioning process to make sure that, as you say, we can be a viable opposition. But one other thing you need to look at, and I'm making no insinuations here, is to begin to wonder why there are problems in most of the
opposition parties.
leading opposition parties. I need to say no more. So you'll always have these people. There are people who will always be willing to be used by outside forces. Nigerians are hungry. I'll just say that.
Now, Mr. Ladipo Johnson, before we end this conversation, I know you're not. Mr. Ladipo Johnson, I know you don't have a crystal ball in front of you. You're not. What's the name? If I can't get the name. You're not a you don't see the future. Yes, you're not a seer. But looking ahead, as the NNPP prepares for future elections, political engagements, what are your party's primary strategic goals? How do you envision this recent decisions and actions in this, faction and infighting shape the party's trajectory in the months and years to come? Are you willing, and is the party willing to, deal with this decisively and speak with one voice going forward?
We have look, if you have a party that looks at the misdemeanors of one of the founding members of the party and deals with him in this Nigeria, then you know that they're ready to deal with things decisively. And we will deal with things decisively. We will work hard. We will work with the people of Nigeria. Our strategy, well, there are many things, but basically this is a party for the people. Most of these people that left have been at the helm of this party for some 20 years. And I'm sorry to say, did you know who the NNPP were before, or the NNPP party? And we've come in, and within a year, by God's special grace, the NNPP is on the map of Nigeria. Because we're serious people. We're serious people. They are transactional people. And that is the phrase that the suspended Dr. Ayebunam used to use. He used to say to me, oh, Johnson, these people, some of the people with him today, These people are transactional politicians. That is what they use the party for. And they're unhappy that we came down on them when we had evidence of people that did that during the last elections.
Mr. Ladipo Johnson, I wish we could go on, but we're fast run out of time on the program today. Thank you so much for your time and
please,
insights.
in future, sir, they are not a BOT, and you can call them factional.
Noted.
They're not a national.
We'll wait for the courts to decide. Mr. Ladipo Johnson, a pleasure speaking with you, spokesperson and national auditor of the NNPP. We will definitely have you back on the program soon, because this is a very fluid situation and fast developing. Thank you so much for your time, your insights and candor. Thank you. You're watching Politics HQ on News Central Television. The Lagos State National Assembly seems to say there's no going back on the decision not to pass 17 commissioners in the list that was sent to them by His Excellency, the Lagos State Governor, Babajide Sanwo-Olu. We'll look into details of this and more when we return from this break. Do stay with us.